All right, for today's state history video, turn to page 53, and it's called Are We Almost There? It says use a road map to figure the distance between cities in your state. Part B shows you how to figure the time. So what they want you to do is you go from your city or a city in Connecticut to a different city and figure out how many miles and figure out how much time. The way to do that is that there's a formula and it's distance. If you're ever trying to find a distance equals the rate that you're traveling times the amount of time that you're going. So right now we're trying to find out the time. So if you're looking for the time and distance equals rate times time, then time, if you're wanting to know the time, you have to go the distance traveled divided by the rate you were going. So if you were going 65 miles away at 65 miles an hour, you have 65 divided by 65 and you get 1, and it would take you 1 hour to get there. Michael mentioned Glastonbury, and Riley mentioned North Haven, and Griffin mentioned New Britain. And all three of those cities, I calculated the miles from here. So if you're looking at A, you could do from Newington to Glastonbury, it's 9 miles away. From Newington to North Haven, it is 23 miles away. From Newington to New Britain, it's only about 2 miles away. Now here is the problem, and you would probably just have to look this up on your map, on your Apple map, if you have an iPhone, or your parents do, or whatever. But the only problem with this is, if you're using 65, Connecticut, first of all, Connecticut is so small that half the time you are not going 65 miles an hour. If I went to Griffin's house and I went to New Britain and I was going 65 miles down the road, I would get a ticket is what I would get. Same thing with if I were going to Glastonbury. North Haven, some of it you can go a little bit faster, so it would be a little bit more accurate. But the thing is, if I divided 65 divided by, or 2 divided by 65, that would be, I think the answer would be 0.03. So it would be 300ths, which would be, I think it's saying it would be take 1 minute, because 300ths of an hour would only be about 2 minutes, and it does not take 2 minutes to get there, so, or 1 minute to get there. It's inaccurate because of the distances are so short. I even looked up for Connecticut trying to find further places away, and the furthest I could kind of see was Stamford, Connecticut, which if you look at Connecticut, it's like right by New York, all the way south, and I try to go the furthest north, like a diagonal, so from Stamford to Connecticut to Thompson, Connecticut, and you can write some of these down, whatever you want. It would be 132 miles from Stamford, Connecticut to Thompson, Connecticut, and these you would take a highway. So if we were to divide 132 miles on section B divided by 65, you would get 2 remainder 2. I've been doing the math. You would get 2 remainder 2. And the funny thing is, I looked it up on my maps, my Google Maps, and it said to get to Thompson, Connecticut from Stamford, Connecticut, it would take 2 hours and 3 minutes. So it's pretty accurate when you go on the main highways. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say. If you're going between these little places, it's going to be small. They must be thinking about if you have a larger state, but ours is pretty small. So I decided, well, you could write that one from Stamford to Thompson. It's 2 hours and 3 minutes, and it's 132 miles. So then I was thinking, how about we play a little game of trying to go to different places and see how accurate it is but we're going to places outside of Connecticut because this will help us with the accuracy because we're traveling on the highway. So the first place I said was, how about we see how far it takes to get to Boston? So you could say, and all of these, we're starting in Newington, we're starting at ECA. So if you start at ECA or at Newington, so for these, this is from Newington to Boston. From Newington to Boston, it is 108 miles. And so if you put 108 at the bottom, you know that 65 or 6 would go into 10 only one time. So it's going to be 1 remainder 43. 1 remainder 43. And so I got, it was 1 hour, or 1 remainder 43, so it's 1 and 43 65ths. Which is funny because I looked it up and it is actually 1 hour and 44 minutes away. So this is pretty accurate. So you could put in there in the time, if you put from Newington to Boston, it is 108 miles, and the time it took you was 1 hour and 44 minutes. Okay, so number 2, I decided, hey, let's go home. Home, I mean to New Jersey, where I go in the summer. So I live in Sparta, New Jersey. So from here, from ECA, from Newington to Sparta, New Jersey, from Newington to Sparta, it is 141 miles. 141 miles, and if you divide 141 divided by 65, you're going to see that 6, well, it rounds to 7. 7 goes into 14 2 times. So it is 2, remainder 11. And so you get 2 and 11 65ths, which is, 65 is pretty close to 60, which is like minutes. So it would be close to 11. And when I looked it up, it said that it was 2 and 1/2 hours away. So you could put there from Newington to Sparta, it is 141 miles and 2.5 hours away. So that's pretty close as well. It's only about 10 minutes off. Okay, now, I have also, my best friend lives in Atlanta or close to Atlanta. So the next thing I said is, I'm going to check how far it is from Newington to Atlanta, Georgia. So I said from Newington to Atlanta, it is 972 miles. So if you put in one of those, 972 miles divided by 65, if you do that math, and I did all of this math, be so proud of me, I did all this division here while I was sitting here and seeing how close it was to the actual time. It was 14 remainder 62, or 14 and 62 over 65, which is, so it's almost 15. Wow, it's almost 15 hours. But when I looked it up, it said it was 14 hours and 26 minutes. I'm telling you, it's so close. So you could say from Newington to Atlanta, it's 972 miles. And it would take you 14 hours and 26 minutes. I also decided, and I don't know why I did, I was thinking, what if we go to Disneyland? Okay, so Disneyland, this is in California. So this is in Anaheim. So from Newington to Anaheim, capital ANAHEIM, it is 2,495 miles. Wow, that's far. So California is pretty far. 2,495 miles to Disneyland, and if we were going 65 miles an hour across the country, I did the math and got 38 hours. It would take you 38 hours, and then I got the remainder 25. So if we put it over on top of 25 over 65, it's close to 38.5 hours. Well, when I did it in Google Maps and tried to check it out, it said it would take you 1 day and 17 hours, which 1 day is 24 hours plus 17. 24 plus 17 is 41 hours. So it was very close. It was only off by 2 hours. So that was pretty close. The next one, I said, or this is the last one, I decided, how about if our class took a road trip, so from Newington to Juneau, Alaska. Juneau, Alaska. Now we'd have to drive straight across Canada, straight up Canada. And I found that it's 3,908 miles. And so from Newington to Juneau, Alaska, it's 3,908 miles. Divided by 65, and you get 60, remainder 8, or 60, yeah, 60 hours and about 8/65 of a minute. Well, I decided to check it, and it said it would take you 2 days and 17 hours to get there. Let's see, 2 days would be 48 hours, plus 17 would be 48 plus 17 is 65 hours, and this says it would take you about 60 hours, so it was only 5 hours off, which if you're going that far of a distance, it could afford to be that far off. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video of random places to go from Newington, Connecticut, and maybe this inspired you that after all this virus goes down to take a road trip or go somewhere fun, and that tells you how to find distance. Alright, I'll see you in another video unless this is your last one. Bye!